He was the future king of the Netherlands. She was just an Argentine banker with a scandal tied to her last name. When Crown Prince Willem-Alexander met Maxima Zorreguieta in 1999, no one saw it coming. Not the Dutch public, not the royal family, not even her. But what started as a dance in Seville turned into a national controversy, one that nearly destroyed their future before it began. Because when the world learned who her father was, the crown almost slipped away. This is how Maxima went from rejected outsider to one of Europe's most beloved queens. This is the story of Queen Maxima, the woman whom the people of the Netherlands didn't want at first and later couldn't imagine living without. But to understand why she caused chaos across Europe, you need to know who Queen Maxima was before the title, before the tiaras, and before the world found out what her family was hiding. Before she was Queen Maxima of the Netherlands, she was Maxima Zorreguieta, born in 1971 in Buenos Aires, Argentina. She grew up in the fancy Recoleta neighborhood, in a family big on politics. Her dad was a minister under Argentina's military dictatorship, which later stirred some royal drama. Maxima was raised on discipline, education, and ambition. She went to a top bilingual school, nailed her econ degree at Universidad Católica Argentina, where, fun fact, Pope Francis used to give morning mass, and then leveled up in the US with international finance studies. From 1995 to 2000, she was grinding in the finance world, working for big names like HSBC and Deutsche Bank in NYC, and Brussels just casually crushing it in emerging markets before anyone knew she was about to become royal. But her life took an unexpected turn when she met then Crown Prince Willem-Alexander of the Netherlands. Maxima first met Alexander in April 1999 during the Feria de Abril, or April Fair in Seville, Spain. Maxima was invited to the festival by a friend who hinted she would meet two European princes. At the event, Maxima was taking photos when she encountered a tall, blonde man, Willem-Alexander, who was annoyed about being photographed. This awkward moment quickly gave way to a lively evening, with the pair dancing together and feeling an immediate connection. Willem-Alexander introduced himself simply as Alexander, and Maxima did not initially realize he was the heir to the Dutch throne. So, when he later revealed his true identity, she thought he was joking. Despite this, their chemistry was evident, and they decided to meet again. 2 weeks after their first meeting, the couple reunited in New York, where Maxima was working for Deutsche Bank. Their relationship deepened during this time, with frequent phone calls and visits. Willem-Alexander made regular trips to New York, which he explained to his mother, Queen Beatrix, by saying, "Her name is Maxima. She's Argentinian, lives in New York, and trust me, don't ask any more questions now." On the other hand, Maxima was initially cautious about dating a prince and did not immediately tell her family about his royal status. She described her new boyfriend as a blonde lawyer, or consultant, and only later revealed the truth to her parents. Her father, skeptical at first, traveled with her mother to New York to meet Willem-Alexander and ensure their daughter was happy. That summer, Maxima was introduced to Willem-Alexander's family at Queen Beatrix's holiday home in Italy. Prince Claus, Willem-Alexander's father, advised Maxima to learn Dutch as soon as possible. By autumn 1999, after Dutch newspapers reported on the relationship, Maxima began taking Dutch lessons to prepare for her new life. The relationship became public in September 1999, and Maxima quickly became known in the Netherlands as the future king's girlfriend. But as soon as their romance went public, the headlines didn't celebrate her charm. The media started to uncover her father's dark past. Jorge Zorreguieta, Queen Maxima's father, served as Argentina's Minister of Agriculture during the country's military dictatorship from 1976 to 1981, a period known as the Dirty War. Under the regime led by General Jorge Rafael Videla, an estimated 30,000 people were displaced as the junta targeted leftists, union members, and other so-called subversives. Zorreguieta was one of the longest-serving civilian ministers in the junta's cabinet, a position that gave him significant influence and visibility. Zorreguieta's tenure coincided with widespread human rights violations. While there is no direct evidence proving Zorreguieta's involvement in human rights violations, multiple investigations concluded it was inconceivable that he was unaware of the atrocities occurring during his time in office. A Dutch government-commissioned report by Professor Michel Bode found no proof of direct involvement, but stated that Zorreguieta, given his high-ranking role, must have known about the regime's atrocities. Zorreguieta consistently denied knowledge of the repression, claiming that the Ministry of Agriculture was not informed about the issue, and that he only learned of the regime's excesses after 1984. These assertions were sharply contested by journalists and human rights advocates, who noted that the junta's ill treatments were widely known both in Argentina and internationally while he was in office. Specific allegations included complicity in the blacklisting and dismissal of employees at the National Institute for Agricultural Technology, some of whom were later arrested or faced human rights violations. Lawyers for deprived families argued that such actions could not have occurred without the minister's knowledge. So, when the relationship between Maxima and then Crown Prince Willem-Alexander became public, the revelation of her father's role in the dictatorship sparked a firestorm in the Netherlands. There was a campaign to have Zorreguieta arrested and put on trial for human rights violations against humanity if he entered the Netherlands. Dutch lawyer Liesbeth Zegveld and others formally requested prosecutors to investigate and potentially reopen cases against him. The Dutch press and public reacted with intense scrutiny. Many were outraged at the idea of a human rights violator being connected to the royal family. Mies Bouwhuis, a representative of Argentine victims in Holland, and other activists highlighted the regime's issues and called for Zorreguieta's exclusion from royal events. Some politicians demanded that Maxima publicly denounce her father's actions on live television. The controversy reached the highest levels of Dutch politics. The Dutch parliament debated whether Willem-Alexander should be allowed to marry Maxima, given her father's background. Some politicians argued that the prince should renounce his claim to the throne if he proceeded with the marriage. The government launched a formal investigation into Zorreguieta's past, which ultimately concluded that while he was likely aware of the atrocities, there was no evidence of direct involvement. As a result of the public and political pressure, Jorge Zorreguieta was not invited to his daughter's 2002 wedding or her later inauguration as queen. In an open letter, Zorreguieta stated he would not attend to avoid controversy that could harm his daughter's future. Maxima publicly expressed regret for her father's role in a bad regime, but maintained that he had the best intentions. Queen Maxima's public response regarding her father's controversial past was measured and focused on regret and personal distance from his actions. Before her wedding, Maxima stated in a media interview, "I regret that he did his best in a bad regime. He had the best intentions." She accepted her father's decision not to attend her wedding, and later her swearing in as queen, acknowledging the sensitivity of his involvement in the Argentine dictatorship and the impact it had on Dutch society. Maxima's remarks emphasized her sorrow over the circumstances and her belief in her father's intentions, while stopping short of defending his actions or denying the gravity of the regime's issues. So, on her wedding day, the chair next to her mother sat empty, and every camera knew why. The wedding of then Crown Prince Willem-Alexander and Maxima Zorreguieta on February 2, 2002 marked a turning point for both the Dutch royal family and the nation. Despite the deep controversy surrounding Maxima's father and fierce political debate over the marriage, the ceremony itself became a transformative moment. The couple's commitment, Willem-Alexander was even willing to give up his claim to the throne, for Maxima demonstrated the depth of their bond and won admiration. Maxima's presence and warmth quickly began to win over the Dutch public. Her background in finance, her approachable personality, and her efforts to integrate into Dutch society, including learning the language, helped shift perceptions. The wedding, broadcast live and watched by millions, showcased not only royal pageantry, but also genuine emotion, making Maxima relatable and sympathetic to many. One of the most powerful and memorable moments of the wedding came during the live performance of Adios Nonino, an Argentine tango composed by Astor Piazzolla. The piece was chosen as a tribute to Maxima's homeland and, poignantly, to her absent father. As the music played, Maxima was visibly overcome with emotion and wept openly in front of the nation. This raw display of feeling resonated deeply with the Dutch public. Many viewers saw her not just as a royal figure, but as a daughter experiencing pain and longing, caught between two worlds. The moment melted public opinion. The crowd and millions watching on television saw her humanity and vulnerability. It became a symbol of reconciliation, empathy, and acceptance, helping to bridge the gap between Maxima and a nation that had once viewed her with suspicion. Maxima became Queen of the Netherlands on April 30, 2013, when her husband, Willem-Alexander, ascended the throne following the abdication of his mother, Queen Beatrix. The transition was marked by a formal ceremony in Amsterdam, where Beatrix signed the act of abdication and Willem-Alexander was officially inaugurated as king. Maxima, under her marriage, became queen consort on that day, the first Dutch queen consort since Princess Emma in the 19th century, and the first to be born outside Europe and as a commoner. Before this, Maxima had already become a Dutch citizen and was granted the titles Princess of the Netherlands and Princess of Orange-Nassau upon her marriage in 2005. She was actively involved in royal duties, took her seat in the Council of State, and joined her husband in representing the royal family at official events. This made her a true daughter of the nation. She never chased the spotlight, but earned respect quietly. She entered as a banker, was nearly denied for her bloodline, and today, she's one of the most beloved queens in Europe. They questioned her loyalty, but in the end, she taught them what loyalty truly looks like. Isn't it amazing?